everybody, and welcome to the first chapter a day keeps the doctor away of 2014. My name is Alan, otherwise known as Hisui, and I'm from ReverseThieves.com as well as the Speakeasy podcast. And this time I'm going to do something a little different. Usually I look at, the newest chapters of series coming out, but since we're in the New Year's break, like I said in the last Claymore review, I was going to try to look at some series that are a little older, a little more overlooked, but I don't have a huge amount of chapters under their belt. And so I'm going to look at Tomoko Ninomiya's 87 Clockers, which is really a unique series. Definitely not one of those series that you see a million of. And a lot of people might recognize that name. She is the author of the wildly successful, at least in Japan, Nodame Cantabile, about students at a music college. And this series definitely takes an even stranger turn for manga because it's about overclocking PCs competitively. And really, I don't think you can get a more unusual manga genre. For people who don't know, it's about basically taking the hardware in a computer over its specified limits, using cooling and unique code and strange hardware techniques to make, PC hardware run faster than was ever intended. And apparently, you know, as anything as nerdy as that, there's going to be some major competition, and we see the main character kind of getting drawn into that world. So it is in many ways kind of a somewhat of a standard sports anime formula, but especially considering that Naomiya is involved and it's in a Jose manga. Well, I think this is a seinen series. Yeah, it's in Jump Kai, but it comes from a Jose mangaka, so you're gonna get a very different, almost Chihaya Furu-esque sports experience. And while the beginning has this guy named Mike totally outshining all these people in China and India and even the International Space Station with just how crazy good his, current build can calculate pi. We don't really focus that much on Mike because we're really looking at our protagonist, who, interestingly enough, almost like a transition from her last series, he's a music student, kind of like, everybody I mentioned in Nodame. But unlike the people in Nodame, he doesn't really have a big fighting spirit. In fact, he kind of mentions that several times. He constantly refers to himself as a herbivore male, which is this Japanese phenomenon where these guys have been categorized as herbivore males. They're kind of passive and not competitive, not aggressive, and they're supposedly one of the reasons behind this population drop in Japan. These guys who just don't have the cojones to ask out women or attract women and would rather just be by themselves. And we see that the main character, he's really kind of very passive, and he's skilled enough that he can coast through life and lucky enough that he can coast through life. But, whereas all his friends are looking to go and compete overseas with their music or be part of experimental bands or, viciously fight each other in music competitions, he just wants to relax and, study his music enough to get ahead, but he doesn't have anything he really wants to do with the music. There's no you know, passion for it. He's just, I'm good at it, and people say I'm good at it, so I guess I'll go along. And when everybody, who's close to graduating is like, oh, what are you going to do with your life? He's like, I don't know. Definitely something. Not sure. And and even when he brings it up to his family, his mom and his sister, his mom's like, oh, you can just teach music lessons with me, and I have like a ton of work. And he's like, all right, so I guess with no real effort, I'm gonna just teach music and I'll pay the bills pretty well, and I'll do okay. I guess. And he just seems like he knows that if he just goes on this way, he's never going to have any passion. He's never going to have any major success. He's just going to do all right. Never bad. Never going to be, want for food or shelter. But he's never really going to have any, excitement or passion or just life. He'll just be living, but not really be alive. And so, and you can see that he wants to change, but he's just no idea how to. And there's no real desire for him to. Since he has no need to change, he just isn't going to. But one day he sees this very gorgeous woman outside in the cold, and he's like, she doesn't have shoes on, and it's obviously freezing, and she isn't dressed for it. And once again, being a passive guy, he can't, you know, bring himself up to ask, but just the pure beauty of this woman and kind of the sadness of his situation, he just can't get her out of his mind. And we see, when the main character isn't looking at her, this unnamed girl actually is working with Mike, who we see in the beginning, and helping him overclock his machines. But obviously, she's quite klutzy. Like in the first time, she decides to dry, with a hair dryer, their cat, and that siphons off enough power to basically stop his crazy record run that he was doing with, calculating pi. And then later on in the chapter, she totally moe trips and spills all the liquid nitrogen, and apparently that gets her put outside like a bad child. And so, once again, it looks like his life, as much as he may want to change, nothing's going to change. But then he sees this like beautiful woman once again outside of the of her apartment, and just kind of being so frustrated with nothing changing in life, he decides to finally approach her and see what her situation is. Maybe he can help. Maybe he can just converse with her. Doesn't matter. He's just being active, and that's what's important. And that's kind of where it ends. And so we haven't had much overclocking other than Mike. But once again, it's really important to show why the main character wants to change, why he would get into this world, why he would want to be in something so obscure and so crazy. And of course, set up this kind of love story between this weird, quirky girl and this guy who wants to change. And once again, we can see a lot of Neomiya kind of flourishes, kind of a larger competitive story, kind of like in Nodame with all the music competitions, but in the heart of the matter, kind of this love story being, and this connection of characters kind of being, well, the competitive story and the growth is the structure, kind of that relationship is the heart. And so, this guy trying to know about this mysterious girl who may or may not be dating Mike. And so, you know, just Mia really succeeds, I think, at most at making really weird characters. Obviously, this girl was really strange and kind of wacky, and kind of, that was kind of one of the biggest appeals of Nodame was just what a weirdo Nodame was, but a lovable weirdo. And we definitely have the same thing going on here. Um, I'm sure that somebody's going to throw out, in this case, uh, would be totally untrue of the manic pixie dream girl, but I feel like the manic pixie dream girl is just supposed to be there for the guy and not kind of have any other interests. Whereas I think that as the series goes on, we learn that the main girl is just as crazy about computers as anybody else. So that's already a passion, and like I don't feel like the normal manic pixie dream girl would have a boyfriend. So, she's not fully in the mold. But he is kind of a guy who, has no direction in life and she's giving it to him. So, unlike a lot of times when the internet overuses that term, I feel like you can you can kind of use that term here, but I feel like once again, just because that something is a trope or a piece of formula doesn't mean that it's bad. You can really use any of those things really well, and Neomiya usually does that. So once again, given the crazy weird topic of this series, I mean you're not gonna see another overclocking PCs manga anytime soon, and just the way that she just makes these weird lovable characters. It's definitely a series to look at. Definitely not a series that's ever going to get a print license anytime soon. Maybe in some kind of weird online only format, but even then, 87 Clockers is too obscure. But, that's why I'm talking about the series. Alright, see you guys for 87 Clockers Chapter 2 whenever I get around to it. Once again, if you want to see more of this series or more weird series, just let me know. I mean, I'm doing this for my own fun, but if anybody wants me to look at a series, I have no problem doing it. I mean, there's always little lulls. So, a series that isn't on my regular schedule, I could definitely add in there. So, see you guys next time.